Hey folks, welcome back. My name is Krishna, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the power of patterns. So if we look at this particular image here, focus on the background. You can see that there's a repeating series of images, and let's make this a little bit more pronounced. If we look at this next example over here, you can see that we've got a bunch of machinery. It looks really complicated and really techy, and having patterns can make this process super simple. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up a 5100 pixel wide by 3300 pixel tall, 600 pixels per inch canvas. And I just choose this particular number because it's a large enough canvas to where you can get pretty good quality. So if you have to shrink something down or slightly scale it up, it's not going to be as much of an issue. So we'll click create. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure our rulers are turned on. So if you hit Command R, that toggles the visibility of your rulers. You can see that my rulers here are measured in pixels. Doesn't really matter if they're in pixels or inches or what have you. In fact, you can always just right click on the ruler to change the measurement units. But I'm going to stick with pixels here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a couple of guides. I'm going to just drag out a few guides, and you can do that by just moving your cursor up to the very top. And it doesn't really matter where these are going to go. These are going to serve as my in and out points for the pattern that I'm going to create. I'm going to go ahead and focus on making something that looks somewhat techy, and I'm going to keep the example relatively simple here, because I think you're going to get the idea. I'm not going to go in with a ton of detail on this particular image, but I'm going to make sure that I'm on a brand new layer. I will pick a good inking brush. I'm holding down the Shift key, creating a few lines. I'll make a new layer. I'll create a set of vertical lines by making copies. Like so. I can turn off my guides now. And these are my two vertical lines right here. I'll just go ahead and make this go behind. I'm going to try to create a little bit of depth with overlap, and I'll do the same thing here. Except in this case, I'll make these go in front. So I'm just taking the lasso tool and trimming off the fat, so to speak. So I've got something like this. I can merge those layers together. Oh, and I forgot this one right here. Let's see, I'll just have this go behind, like so. Clean that up, and I can go ahead and draw just some rivets, other doodads. You can make this look a little bit more sophisticated, but I'm going to leave that up to you, and you can look at some of my examples to get some ideas for yourself. But what I've got here is I've got in and out points. It doesn't really matter how you get to the in and out point, and what I mean by that is the top is going to connect to the bottom. We're going to create a series of patterns where there's going to be interconnections. What's really important, though, is that you want to cap off your endpoints, and that's what I'm going to do right here. And I'm holding down the Shift key to make those straight lines. I'll put a few dots right here just to add a little bit of variety into the mix. You can add more doodads as you wish. I'm just going to keep this super simple. And of course, realize that when you're using the Shift key, sometimes you'll get a diagonal line. That's just an annoying thing that happens. I usually find that the workaround is to simply click on a point where you want the line to begin and then hold your Shift key down. I don't know if this is a bug or is this something within Photoshop, but it is a little bit annoying. So I'll just add just a little bit more here. I want to create the illusion that this pipe or what have you is actually a little bit behind. Okay, and I'll do the same thing on this side. I'll just freehand this. Okay, so I've got my pattern. Let's get rid of the background layer by selecting it and hitting the trash can. We want a transparent background. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and define this as a pattern. So I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go down to where it says Define Pattern. I'll just call this Tech EXP for Experiment. I'll hit Enter. And what I'll do now is I'll hit the new composition. I'll make a brand new composition. I'll make it the same size, 5100 pixels wide by 3300 pixels tall, 600 pixels per inch. Make a new layer. And now I'll go to Edit, Fill. I can do it this way. I'm going to show you another way that's also pretty cool too. I'm going to just table this for now. I want to show you a better way. If I go down to the bottom of the Layers panel, and if I click on what looks like a small circle there, I can choose Pattern. And with that in place, I can scroll down to find the pattern that I've created, which I guess looks like that. And you can see that that pattern fills up the entire composition. So here's where you can do some really neat stuff with this. You can actually take the scale and you can crank it down, and notice that you get this repeating pattern. And by closing those lines, it looks like everything is already interconnected with each other. Right? So you can make it really, really tiny. I don't recommend 1%, but maybe something like 34% or so. And you can also have this go at an angle. You can just take the angle marker and it will go ahead and make things look diagonal. And when you're happy, you can just click OK, and you've got this pattern. Now this pattern here, you're going to, if you want to commit that change, this is basically your mask. And there's a pattern fill layer. You can, with this layer selected, you can actually double click on it and you can make further manipulations if you want to. Maybe I want to make it, a little bit more steep. But if you want to commit this for whatever reason, if you want to add some extra, if you want to edit this drawing and add some additional details to that specific layer, you're going to have to first right click, rasterize the layer. And it might take a second or two for it to rasterize. You can see that it's rasterizing. This just allows it to turn into regular lines that you can then draw on top of, which is pretty cool. And then if you want to get rid of that mask, you can just go ahead and apply layer mask, and there you go. You've got this interesting pattern. So that's the technique. So what I did for the really experimental tech background is I created two patterns. So let me show you what I did there. I'll go back to the example that I've got, and this time what I'll do is I'll click this circle, go to pattern, and I've got another set of patterns down here at the very bottom. And you can see that it's got a little bit more detail. I will set this to something that's maybe about not too low, maybe about 56%. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. Okay, I've got something like this. And if I want to actually add a little bit more complications or have some other stuff that appears to be behind it, I'll make a new layer. I'll use my magic wand tool and just select some of these openings like so. I'll just pick a few like this. And then I'll go back to the little circle, choose pattern, and in this case what I want to do is I want to pick the other pattern that I have here. So this is a different pattern that I have altogether, and I'll click that, and I'll go ahead and actually drop this down to 12%. So now you can see, let me just go ahead and click OK. If I were to zoom in, you can see that I have even more complicated machinery in the background. So you can do a lot of really neat stuff with this, and the sky's the limit, but hopefully you found this tip useful. If you did, I definitely would appreciate a thumbs up so that other folks can find the content on this channel. The goal here is to help everyone level up their digital art abilities. If you have any questions or comments, please drop me a line. You can follow me on Instagram at Krishna Draws too, so you can see what I'm working on. Usually the stuff that I'm working on gives me ideas for tutorials, but I'm also open to getting your feedback on what you'd like me to go ahead and create for an upcoming tutorial. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.